Hello, it's a great day here at Kekfilet's YouTube channel. I am the Kekfilet, and today I actually have a video on combat math and some situations for final turns. And I first wanted to give a big shout out to Philip Fu and Justin. Essentially, what they've done, they have made a Patreon. This is from their Patreon. I did have their permission before, and I'm most likely to become a paying patron here probably today. But with this, two very good players in their own right with many toppings, and they decided to make a Patreon, and they have a free fundamental sort of video, or really it's an article. If you guys want, it'll be down in the description where you can find their Patreon, a lot of the things, but the same article will be down also on their Patreon. With this, I'm just going to read it through. Happy Wednesday to Dawn fams. We have also seen that one of the biggest areas for improvement in our coaching students was the combat math, and we figured this would be a great topic to provide some insight with our first fundamentals article. I'm assuming, because they do a lot of coaching, both of them, that this seems to be the most common thing. That's why it's brought up here. So when they do help people with coachings, they don't have to go over things like this, saving them time. That's my understanding. Understanding that the reasons for attacking your opponent is going to be number one, it's the progress to have a win condition and to beat your opponent. Also, to reduce your opponent's hand size, they do have to guard out. You want to be able to clear characters on your opponent's board. And then finally, win the game on your final turn, because there will generally be a final turn at some point. The game has to end, so there will be a final turn. And what exactly is combat math? When simplified into a single statement, I think of it as how many cards you are asking from your opponent in your turn's attacks. If we are doing this efficiently, you can imagine we are asking the most amount of cards from them. In our first part of the series, we will talk about the final turn, or lethal math. This may be the easiest of the four key ideas, so our goal is to provide you with some of the tools so you can apply them immediately at locals and get some wins. Please allow me to explain. Let's say, for example, for the sake, we have two leaders and we're both 5,000 power leaders. If your goal is to strip your opponent of cards from their hand, you need to hit a relative number against them. Usually these are going to come in multiples of 2,000s on top of the defending powers leader. An example is that if you swing for 5,000 power, you get one card, at least 1k counter. If you swing for 6,000 attack, they can still give you one card that's 2k counter, in the best cases scenario if they have that. And then it kind of goes on. 7k attack, two cards, a 2k and a 1k, an 8k attack, a 2k and a 2k, a 9k attack, 2k, 2k, 1k. You're asking for three cards. So if we're trying to talk about it in the most efficient way in order to waste your opponent, and also your opponent being smart. The above figures are best case scenario, assuming they do not have 2k power counters. But the idea is to show that unless you have a read on their hand, which is going to be a fundamental at some point, reading your opponent's hand, and that they are lacking 2k counters, that 2k power increments over their leader's power is the sweet spot for maximizing how many cards you are making your opponent give you if they don't want to take a life here. And so they want to give a scenario here out for you guys. And I know we can't see the hand, so let's just ignore our opponent's hand. They may have a large hand or a small hand, and yours doesn't matter as well. And with this scenario, they wanted to kind of explain, let's apply this to practice scenario just in case. In this case, we are absolutely going to die in the following turn. So how do we attack most efficiently to possibly beat them on this turn? Reiju, a leader infamous for having a gigantic hand size in the end game, will demand that we attack in the most efficient way to break through. Okay, so I want you guys to kind of pause, think about this, and I'm going to also provide you some answers here. So number one is that you can say A, swinging 5k with your crocodile, 5k with your leader, or 17k with Jozu at the same time? Is it B? So you can 5k with pudding, 5k with pudding, 7k with Jozu, 9k crocodile, 9k leader. Or is it C, 6k pudding, 6k pudding, Jozu 7k, AK crocodile, AK leader. Or GG, go next, hands too big. I want you guys to think about those 4 answers. And in this scenario, they were saying if you answered B, you're correct. If we refer to the chart above, the example, we can see that the best case scenario answers A, require 10 cards. B, also requires 10 cards. And C requires 8 cards. But hold on. Answer A and B are both 10 cards. Best case scenario. Why is B the correct answer and not A? By swinging 5k twice, that demands your opponent to have 1k counters here. If they only had 2k counters, this is technically taking more counter power out of their hand, and they want to just have 5k attacks, right? For those who live through the OPO2 Whitebeard leader area, this is a very common fundamental to call back to, is swinging 6k at their leader, and they were 6k, and they would give you a 2k because that's all they had. Scenario 2, now you're in a different situation. You have a lot more 5k bodies as blue boa, and you have all 10 Dawn, of course, and your opponent is going to kill you on the next turn, right? From this, your opponent only has 1 card in their life. Obviously, we don't know our opponent's hand, but let's say they have a pretty large hand, and we have to just be as efficient as possible. That's essentially the goal here with this one. For this example, we find ourselves in a similar predicament. We are certainly not living through the next turn, so we need to win on our next turn. Unfortunately, this time, they are at 1 life instead of 0. Using some of the ideas we learned in the previous example, what is the best way to approach the lethal attempt? Is it 1, 5k with Dofi, 5k Jinbei, 5k Moria, 5k leader, and then 14k leader? Next, is it 7k Jinbei, 7k Jinbei, 7k Moria, 7k leader? C, 6k Dofi, 6k Jinbei, 6k Moria, 6k Jinbei, 7k Moria, 8k leader? Or finally D, 5k Dofi, 5k Jinbei, 5k Moria, 5k Jinbei, 9k Moria, 10k leader? I want you guys to think about that for a moment. And if you answer D, you are correct. Answering A, it does ask for 10 cards, but relies on a 5k to connect, so it's generally too risky unless their hand size is very low. Answer B also asks for 10 cards, too, and hits for relevant numbers each time. Answer C asks for 8 cards and is not hitting relevant numbers. Answer D asks for 10 cards, but gives more opportunities to check your opponent's hands for 2k counters. This is strong if they only have a limited amount of 1k counters in hand. So kind of following the last thing, if or against the Whitebeard days, you're asking more from your opponent in ways that you aren't really asking. Technically, both B and D are valid options, but option D gives us more chances to check information out of our opponent's hand at no additional cost of Dawn. And then a final scenario, and we don't actually have an answer to this, so I want you guys to leave down in the comments, or actually even better, in the article down below. Okay, this is your final scenario. Your board's this, your opponent's board's that, and we've already known that they have at some point picked up 2 Ginas. They've revealed that they've grabbed 2 Ginas at some point in the game. Okay. And then on top of that, you're not going to survive this next turn. You have to deal with your board and 10 Dawn. Your opponent's at this. In this situation, we find ourselves in need to try for a lethal, and the opponent lethal in this turn. Imagine that we only know of 2 Genas in hand, the previous poor searches. What is the best way to approach this lethal? Please give a comment down below, and they would really love to see where everyone's head's at. The conclusion of this is that they hope this article has been helpful and to read and made sense of some more intermediate ideas for how to think about lethal math. Of course, it gets a bit more difficult when there are at higher, like 2 or 3 life, but in general, you can apply some of the same principles. On our next Fundamentals of Combat Math article, we will discuss some of the other reasons to attack as well, and understanding the big picture of your game plan. These are just a few fundamental ideas we teach on during our coaching sessions. So if you feel that we can help you, please feel free to reach out. And that's essentially the end of the video. Again, go give them a follow. You can get a free membership with them. They allow that, and so you can read this article. And then if they have anything else on top of that, maybe with the regular memberships, they also offer a lot of hands one-on-one coaching session discounts. And just like, you can just ask questions, it feels like half the time with their $10 supporter. But I do appreciate you all watching this video, and I do appreciate them letting me cover this specific article. If you guys like this video, I want to make sure you like the content. I've been doing 1 video a day, and this honestly has been kind of a nice little thing when I've been studying a lot lately, and this was actually a pretty good article for that. I appreciate if you guys subscribe. I'm trying to hit not really a goal, but my subscribe count has gone up the past couple days, so that's felt pretty good. And then if you're not already, I do have a Patreon. I'll give you shout outs at the end of every video, and also some good decent guides. And make sure you guys join the Discord if you want to join the discussion and be a part of becoming a better player. Thank you all so much for watching the video. I'll see you on the next one. Ciao.